Relax on the sofa and have a listen at this podcast made from Notebook LM about Vinny and the process of making this wrapper GPT that I am going to work with you and document my journey. So let's have a listen at this podcast to get a whole idea of what's going on.
Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine really cutting down the time you spend on job applications, like hours saved. And imagine making sure every single cover letter feels totally unique, written just for that one role you really want. Sounds pretty good, right? Almost too good to be true. Well, our deep dive today is all about making that happen. We're exploring an open source project called Cover Letter GPT. And you sent over some fantastic material on how you could actually build your own version, from scratch.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. What really stands out is how it blends cutting-edge AI, specifically OpenAI's GPT models, with a really common everyday problem, making job applications less painful. So we'll be digging into the core architecture, looking at the tools they use, which are surprisingly accessible, actually, and how you can tweak it, customize it, even strip it down to fit exactly what you need, which kind of leads to a bigger question, doesn't it? How can we really use these powerful tools for ourselves, for personal efficiency and getting these super personalized results?
Exactly. That's the mission today. We want to pull out all the key bits from these sources, give you a really clear picture of not just what Cover Letter GPT is, a tool, so you're not endlessly copy pasting into ChatGPT or staring at a blank page but also how it actually works, what makes it tick, and maybe most importantly, how you might adapt it for your own stuff. So yeah, get ready to explore the world of personalized AI applications. It's pretty cool. Okay, so let's kick off with the basics. What does Cover Letter GPT actually do for you?
Right, so at its heart, it's built to generate really personalized cover letters using AI. Pretty simple concept.
How does that work in practice?
You basically feed it two things: a job listing, the description, and your own CV or resume, usually uploaded as a PDF. Then the application takes those, talks to OpenAI's GPT model, and writes a unique cover letter tailor-made for that specific job.
Okay, so it's automating that whole drafting process.
Exactly. It brings a lot of efficiency. Instead of writing each one by hand or even using a general chatbot back and forth, this thing handles the whole flow. You kick off the generation, and the back end does the work, processes your info securely, pings the OpenAI API, gets the draft back. And it's not just a one-shot deal. It's designed to store and manage all the letters you generate.
Ah, so you can keep track.
Yeah, it helps you track applications, look back at what you sent. The original version even had user logins, usually Google OAuth, so you had your own dashboard.
That kind of organization is, well, super valuable if you're job hunting seriously. But how does it manage all that behind the curtain? Let's talk tech stack, because this is where it gets interesting, right? It uses some pretty modern stuff. First up, WASP. It's described as a full-stack framework. What's the benefit of using WASP here?
WASP is kind of the magic ingredient, the orchestrator. It speeds things up a lot. You define your app's features like authentication, database models, API routes in a simple config file, main.wasp. And from that one file, WASP generates, well, basically everything else: a React front end, an Express Node.js server for the back end. It even wires up Prisma as the ORM for the database.
Wow, okay, so you get a full React Express Prisma setup without writing all the usual glue code.
Precisely. Like for the Google sign-in in the original app, that was just a few lines on the WASP config. Saved a ton of development time.
That does sound powerful for streamlining things. And what about the front end, the UI itself? What did they use to build that out quickly and keep it looking consistent?
For the user interface, they went with Chakra UI. It's a really popular React component library. Gives you pre-built accessible components, buttons, forms, layouts, all that. So the developer could build a clean, responsive interface fast without styling everything from the ground up. Plus, Chakra has a good theming system, makes it easier to keep the design consistent than, say, just using plain CSS or maybe even Tailwind if you're starting fresh.
Right, so quick development, good-looking results. Could you swap it out?
Oh yeah, you could. But Chakra was definitely chosen for speed here. Swapping it might mean more work.
Makes sense. And then the core AI part, the actual letter writing, that's all handled by the OpenAI API, right?
Yep, that's the engine. The application bundles up the job description and the relevant bits from your resume, sends it off to an OpenAI model. Originally, it used GPT 3.5 Turbo, with GPT-4 as an option, and gets the draft cover letter back.
And how does it know what to ask the AI?
That's the prompt engineering part. All the specific instructions for the AI and the actual API calls happen securely on the server side. That's really important. Keeps your OpenAI API key safe, not exposed in the browser. You do need your own OpenAI key to run it, obviously. And you can usually configure which model it uses depending on what your OpenAI account has access to.
Gotcha. Okay, so the letters get generated. Where do they go? Is there like a database involved for storing them?
Yes, absolutely. It uses a PostgreSQL database, and that's managed through Prisma, the ORM we mentioned earlier, which makes working with a database much smoother. That database stores all the persistent stuff, user details, if you have logins, info about the jobs you're applying for, and of course the cover letters themselves.
And for running it locally, how do you handle the database?
Pretty easy, actually. If you've got Docker, Wasp can spin up a Postgres container for you with just one command. Wasp start DB, super convenient for local dev.
Mm.
Or you could use a hosted Postgres service, like something from Railway or Heroku, and just put the connection string in your environment file. Either way, once the database is ready, you run a command, waspdb migrate dev, and it sets up all the tables based on the schema defined via Prisma.
Okay, database sorted. And you mentioned user access earlier. The original used Google OAuth simplified by WASP. What about payments? I saw that mentioned too.
Right, the Google OAuth for authentication was made really simple by WASP, just config, minimal code. And yeah, the original project did integrate Stripe for payments. That allowed them to offer subscription plans, maybe unlimited letters or access to GPT-4 after a free trial period. Stripe handles the checkout, updates the user status, like has paid, in the database. But, and this is key for listeners, that whole payment thing is completely optional if you build your own.
Ah, good point. So if it's just for personal use, you can just leave Stripe out.
Totally. Just skip the Stripe setup, remove the checks for payment, keep it free. Easy.
Okay. The sources also mentioned a couple of other optional bits like Bitcoin Lightning payments and emails.
Yeah, exactly. The Bitcoin Lightning was another payment option in the original. Kind of niche, though. You can easily yank that out. Same for email notifications via SendGrid. That was mostly for subscription reminders, like, hey, your plan is ending soon. Both are good examples of features you can just remove if they're not relevant for your version. Oh, and the whole thing's built with TypeScript, front and back, uses Vite for the front-end dev server, standard modern web stuff, really. Node, NPM ecosystem.
Right, so that paints a really clear picture of the tech involved. Now, for someone listening who's thinking, okay, I want to try this, what's the actual path to getting it running on your own machine? The guide seemed pretty step-by-step.
Yeah, the process is quite structured, thankfully. First, you need the code. So fork or clone the open source repository from GitHub. Standard git clone.
Okay, get the code. Then WASP is the core, so you need the WASP tool itself.
That's right. You install the WASP command line interface, the CLI. There's usually a curl script in their docs. You'll need Node.js installed first, of course. Then environment variables, big step. You create a .env.server file, usually copy it from an example template they provide, and you fill in your secrets. Your OpenAI API key is the absolute must-have here. And if you do want Google Login or Stripe, you put those API keys in this file too.
Right, keys are crucial, and the database needs to be running.
Yep. Like we said, two main options for local dev. If you have Docker, Wasp Start DB is probably the easiest way to get Postgres running. If not, point it to a hosted Postgres instance using its connection URL in that .env.server file. Once your database is accessible, you run wasp db migrate dev. That command uses Prisma to create all the tables your app needs.
Okay, code cloned, WASP installed, keys set, database migrated. Then what? Just flip the switch.
Pretty much. You just run wasp start. That single command tells Wasp to compile everything and launch both the front-end dev server, usually on localhost.300, and the back-end API server, typically localhost.3000. Then you just open your browser to localhost.3001 and start generating letters. There's also a handy VS Code extension for Wasp. Helps with the syntax highlighting if you plan to mess with the .wasp files.
That seems surprisingly straightforward for a full stack app. Okay, so getting it running locally is clear, but the real magic of open source is often making it yours, right? How can someone actually customize this thing?
Oh yeah, customization is where it gets really fun, and it's very flexible here. You can start simple .branding in text. Just search the code for cover letter GPT in the UI elements, nav bars, titles, and swap in your own app name. Change the logos, icons too, probably the public folder. Gives it your own look and feel immediately.
Okay, basic branding. Makes sense. What about the AI itself? Can you change how it writes the letters?
Absolutely. That's probably the most impactful customization. Tweaking the prompt and the AI's behavior. The code that actually calls the OpenAI API is usually in a server action file. Maybe something like src serveractions.ts. You can go in there and edit the exact prompt text sent to GPT. This means you can change the tone, the structure, add specific rules like, I don't know, always emphasize teamwork skills or make it sound more formal. You can also play with the motor parameters, like the temperature, which controls randomness or creativity. The UI in the original even had a creativity slider, which probably maps to that temperature setting. You could change its default value or how it works. This really shows that the power isn't just the AI model. It's fine-tuning the prompt engineering for your data and what you want it to produce. Turns generic AI into something really personal.
So you're really sculpting the AI's output. That's powerful. What about the visual side? Changing the look and feel beyond just the logo. Is that easy?
Yeah, because it uses Chakra UI, changing the visuals is pretty straightforward. Chakra lets you define a custom theme, change colors, fonts, spacing, the whole aesthetic in one central place. Or you can just add styling props directly onto components for quick tweaks. It's designed for that. You could rip out Chakra and use plain CSS or Tailwind, but that would likely be more effort, kind of defeating Chakra's purpose of rapid development. You can also easily change the layout of the form fields. Don't need a witty remark option or that creativity slider. Just remove them from the React components.
That flexibility sounds key. And talking about features, if someone just wants this for themselves, can they simplify it? Like remove stuff they don't need.
Definitely. Feature stripping is a big one. If you don't need payments, just disable Stripe. Remove the code checking has paid or calling the Stripe API. Don't want Google login for a personal tool. You could change the WASP config, maybe use simpler auth, or just make the pages public. The app runs fine without all the bells and whistles like payments or even complex authentication or email alerts.
Okay, so you've tweaked it, maybe simplified it, got it running nicely locally. What's the next step? Getting it online, deploying it. How does that work for a full stack app like this?
Right. Deployment. Since it's full stack, you've got the front end and the back end to host somewhere. A really common way, and often recommended, is to split them. Host the front end, which is just static React files, after building on a platform like Vercel or Netlify. The original developer actually used Netlify for the client. Then, the back-end Node Express API and the PostgreScore database need a home. Platforms like Railway are great for this. The original app's server and database ran on Railway. It can deploy straight from GitHub, has easy Postgres add-ons.
Okay, so split deployment, front end on Netlify for Cell, back end and DB on Railway. Are there other ways? Maybe host it all together.
Yeah, absolutely. There are other full-stack platforms like Render, Heroku, Fly.io, maybe DigitalOcean apps. These can often host both the web service, your node server, and the database in one place. Sometimes you might even configure the node server to serve the static React files itself. That simplifies things to one service, but the build process might get it a bit trickier. But no matter where you deploy, the crucial thing is setting up your environment variables again, your OpenAI key, database URL, any auth keys in your hosting platform's secrets management, keep them secure. And yeah, most platforms let you add a custom domain name too, so it lists professional, like the original cover letter gpt.xyz.
That's great. Really breaks down the deployment steps. Now, what if even that feels like maybe a bit much for someone looking for something even more minimal? Are there simpler alternatives?
Oh, for sure. If the full WASP setup feels like overkill, you could rebuild the core idea using something like Next.js. Next.js is great because it can handle both the front-end UI and the back-end API routes within one framework. And for the database and maybe authentication, you can pair it with a service like Supabase. Supabase gives you a hosted Postgres database and handles user logins, often simplifying things compared to managing it all yourself. So different tools, same goal. Web UI, logins, stored letters, powered by OpenAI.
That sounds like a smart simplification leaning on managed services like Supabase. What about like really stripped down, just for personal use maybe?
Yeah, for a truly minimal version, maybe just for yourself or a quick demo, you could ditch user accounts and the database entirely. Just make it a single user tool. You paste in the job description, maybe paste your resume text. It calls OpenAI, shows the letter, no saving, no accounts. You wouldn't need Supabase or Postgres at all then. You could even host it as a static HTML page that makes a call to a simple serverless function like on Netlify Functions or Vercel Serverless, just to handle the OpenAI API call securely. The trade-off: no history saved within the app itself.
Right, lose the storage but gain simplicity. And the original had that GPT 3.5 versus GPT 4 tiering. Can you simplify that part too?
Easily. Just pick one model, maybe stick with GPT 3.5 Turbo for cost effectiveness, use it for everything. That removes all the complexity around subscription tiers or checking user payment status for model access. And again, if you're not aiming to sell this, just skip Stripe or any payment integration altogether. Cuts out a big piece of work. The open source code is still useful as a reference if you do want payments later, but starting simple is totally fine.
So the underlying message here seems to be really adapt it. Make it fit your needs, use the tools you like.
Precisely. That's the key takeaway, I think. Leverage tech you know or want to learn. The reference project used Chakra UI for speed. Great. But if you prefer Tailwind CSS or Material UI, go for it. Swap it in. The cut is sorted. Get input, call OpenAI, show output. Maybe save it. That pattern works across lots of different tech stacks. The open source project is just a fantastic starting point. You can swap out pieces, simplify, or even build on it to make a cover letter GPT that's perfect for your own skills and what you actually need it to do.
So wrapping this up, what does this all really mean? We've done a pretty deep dive into cover letter GPT, haven't we? From its promise of saving time, storing your letters, all the way through its quite intricate tech stack, and then the surprisingly clear steps to get it running yourself. We even looked at all the ways you can really make it your own, customizing the AI, picking your deployment strategy.
Yeah, and if you kind of zoom out, look at the bigger picture, what we've explored today. It's really more than just one specific tool for job hunting. It's actually a pretty clear blueprint, wouldn't you say, for understanding how modern web apps are built, especially how they integrate powerful AI like GPT. You see the modularity of the stack, how easy customization can be for branding, for prompt engineering, and the different deployment options really show how accessible building sophisticated tools has become. Even if you simplify it right down, remove payments, remove logins, just for personal use, it works.
I totally agree. And this isn't just info for developers, is it? Even if you're not planning to write the code yourself, just understanding how a tool like Cover Letter GPT is put together that gives you incredible insight into what's possible with AI-powered applications today. It's about seeing how you can actually take control, shape technology to solve your specific problems using frameworks like WASP or UI libraries like Chakra UI.
Which really brings up an interesting question, doesn't it? If you can build a custom AI agent that writes your cover letters because it understands your resume and the jobs you want, what other parts of your work or even your personal life could be transformed by a tailor-made AI assistant, one that genuinely gets your context, your data?
That's exactly the thought we want to leave you with today. It's provocative, right? The ideas behind Cover Letter GPT, they go way beyond job applications. Imagine the possibilities. A custom assistant to help with your research, for creating specific kinds of content, automating those repetitive tasks that always need your specific input, all built on a similar foundation of modern web tech and AI. The power really is shifting, allowing you to build solutions that are deeply personal and, frankly, incredibly efficient. So keep learning, keep exploring these tools, and who knows what amazing aha moments are waiting for you just around the corner.
I think I have a lot of aha moments, but right now it's just getting this one going. So it's all the way from a GPT wrapper, the databases behind it, all the tech stack, and getting it on the website. So all of that is part of the process, and hopefully everyone that watches this too has ideas as well. And I have ideas, but for right now, I just need to get one of these going. I did some Chrome extensions before, and it took the first one took about a month and a half, and I'm a bit shocked to say that it was vibe coding it too. And I got to admit, I did a lot of it was a lot of learning and version control was unbelievable, how many versions had to be, done, but right now I could do one in 4 hours, but doing the Stripe part of it was a bit very, very tricky, and this process with the templates that they described, I would love to have that, something to help streamline it, and there was always another database that I needed to get. There was the Airtable that I did and the Fly.io, and I was doing Firebase and trying these other ones out, and it didn't work. And there's not really any place I could go to follow instructions. So that's what I'm doing right now, is go through the process of how this is unfolding. So the first thing is WASP. The next video, I will install WASP and get that going and clone the GitHub as well. So I'll do them in steps, and we'll take it one step at a time. So thanks for following me on my journey, and see you in the next video. And we're going to get this end to end, and the URL too. I already have that ready.